He is a natural, experienced, and passionate entrepreneur. He is an experienced corporate executive with a flair and passion for visualizing business opportunities, developing businesses, and nurturing them to success. He prefers technology-based businesses, but can and does participate in other areas of commerce and industry. He is a skilled and experienced problem solver, able to solve all kinds of problems, from solving profitability issues to optimizing building designs to meet specific needs, to creating solutions to unemployment issues in the communities or countries. Being the founder and also the major contributor to the funding and building of the companies in his group has been very rewarding indeed, especially seeing how well they have developed and prospered. In the group, we have Trantorit Infrastructure Services Limited, Swiftic Limited Communications, Tranor International Limited, Construction and Supplies, Lamango Entertainment Limited, Hospitality. We always strive to exceed the expectations of all our clients and customers, and have successfully achieved this 99% of the time. IoT Africa Networks Limited. Who we are? IoT Africa Networks Limited is a company within the Trantor Group, and owned by Trantorit Infrastructure Services Limited, Trantorit. IoT Africa Networks Limited has been the exclusive Sigfox operator in Nigeria since 2019. IoT Africa is currently deploying the Low Power Wide Area Network, LPWAN, which will provide a national infrastructure to facilitate the growth and penetration of IoT and industrial IoT in Nigeria. Our mission is to enable and power the Internet of Things in Africa through the provision of affordable and reliable IoT network connectivity and solutions, and to empower homes and industries to have full visibility and control of their assets. Our vision: a world where all assets are visible and well managed through the use of innovative, cutting-edge IoT technology, provided by IoT Africa Networks.
Okay, so fantastic. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to meet you again. My name is Larry Ayola. I'll take permission from the host to start whenever he sees that it's the right time. Okay, fantastic. Good morning, everybody. I'm sure in some places, in some parts of the world, it may not be morning yet, or it may even be evening. But good morning to the local and international community. Today we're going to talk about the state of agriculture in Nigeria, and but most importantly, make a case for how IoT can benefit the agriculture industry in Nigeria. Now, we'll start off by talking about some of the statistics, and I just want to make sure that, can you see my screen clearly? And is there anything obscuring the screen?
The screen is very clear.
Very well.
Okay, fantastic. Great stuff. All right, I'm just moving the things obscuring my vision. All right, fantastic. So Nigeria's key agricultural statistics. I mean, we need to talk about this because one of the major problems in business is lack of knowledge. But in order to have knowledge, you need data. And when you have data, you need the ability to analyze it in order to derive knowledge, and knowledge that can be actionable knowledge. And understanding the background of Nigeria, or should I say the agricultural industry in Nigeria, where it has come from, where it is now, and where we hope for it to go, is really key. Because once we understand, may I ask everybody to mute their microphones? Can you please mute your microphones? Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. So we're going to talk about the statistics. Now, up on the screen here, you see, you have a lot of data here. And let's start off. What is agriculture contributing to the Nigerian economy? How is it going? the share of agriculture contribution to GDP as at Q3 of 2021 stood at approximately 30%. For a country that has such a landmass as we do, with fertile land and such a large population, really the contribution from agriculture should be much higher than that, especially as we go later on, as we move on in this presentation. You're going to find out that indeed, simply by increasing the value add to agricultural produce, you can multiply this contribution to GDP substantially. So more than 80% of Nigeria's farmers are smallhold farmers, and there's nothing wrong with it, them being smallhold farmers, smallholder farmers. The challenge is that they're not organized as well as they could be, and we'll also see that they're not just not as organized as they should be, but they're not sharing resources as they could, and they're not sharing information as they could. Every farmer is an island, and the information he has stays with him, and therefore his neighbor can't learn from him. So there are many things that are going to come from this webinar. Even after the presentation, there are many discussions that we should have on how the agricultural industry can be improved. Indeed, I know the experts are already thinking along those lines, but we all have a role to play. 6.47 trillion naira is used to import agricultural produce, agricultural products. I mean, you can imagine 6.47 trillion naira is given away to other countries to produce food for us to eat. Obviously, this is not acceptable. Obviously, this is not beneficial to the country. A country that has a landmass that can produce food for itself and half the world. This is just simply not right. And you may be wondering, how can we possibly produce food, for half the world? Well, there are techniques and agricultural techniques that can be applied. That can achieve that. We have a perfect climate for the growth of most agricultural produce, and therefore there is no reason whatsoever that we should be importing 6.47 trillion naira worth of agricultural produce. 34.66%. The agricultural sector remains the largest employer in Nigeria, employing more than 34.66% of the labor force. Now, I would say that's good, because of course, it means that agriculture is helping many people to survive, and many families to earn an income. The sad part of it is that even though 34.66% of the population of the employable market, if you like, labor force, is employed by the agricultural sector, they remain the lowest paid. And they remain the lowest paid workers simply because of the methods used in producing agricultural produce, in harvesting it, in storing it, in further production or a value add in the supply chain, and all other things. So at the end of the day, the inefficiencies trickle down to ensure that this particular group of people are about the lowest paid in the country. 0.27 horsepower per hectare. Now that's referring to the number of tractors, per hectare that are applied in Nigeria. The Food and Agricultural Organization recommends 1.5 horsepower per hectare. Each tractor is defined as a specification that's in horsepower, and therefore they use horsepower to measure, the density of tractors. Tractors are obviously very key, especially in arable farming. And we are at 20% of the recommended level. Is it surprising then that we have to import most of our agricultural produce when, well, let me put it bluntly, we can't be bothered to ensure that we have enough tractors. We can't be bothered to have a tractor assembly plant. We can't be bothered to take mechanized farming seriously. And I use those, controversial terms like we can't be bothered, because I tell you what, everything that Nigeria is bothered about gets done. it gets done. So we hope that this will be corrected. And indeed, I am confident that with the new government coming in, it would be attended to, because we have no choice. We can't continue to spend all of our foreign exchange, or much of it, on importing products that we can produce ourselves. In 4 years, from 2016 to 2019, Nigeria's cumulative agricultural imports stood at 3.35 trillion, 4 times higher than the agricultural exports of 803 billion within the same period. So we are, we are importing 4 times what we export. And we have very fertile land, and we have a massive labor force, and we have a fantastic climate, and we don't have the natural disasters many other countries have. So we have no excuse to be delivering statistics like this. 2 trillion naira was budgeted by the government for agricultural research and development between 2019 to 2022. 2 trillion naira. So we should see some fantastic results from that, shouldn't we? 1.7% is the agriculture budget, represents 1.7% of the total 2022 annual national budget. 1.7% of the budget. So agriculture represents 1.7%. I'm dwelling on this because I'm trying to get my head around it. The importance of agriculture is 1.7% of the budget. This significantly falls short of the 10% specified in the Malabo Declaration on Accelerated Agricultural Growth and Transformation for Shared Prosperity and Improved Livelihoods. So our neighbors recommend 10%, but we spend 1.7%. But you know, my school of thought is basically this: we do not necessarily need the government to invest money in agriculture. Given the current state of affairs, yes, maybe. But what we do need actually is the private sector to take charge. And the private sector will only take charge when the private sector considers investment in agriculture a safe bet. Today, if you talk to many entrepreneurs about their experience in the agricultural sector, you would not be encouraged. But this is only because they don't apply the right technology, nothing more, nothing less. They don't have the right systems and processes. There's certain infrastructure that's not in place. There's certain types of farming they shouldn't get involved in, which they are getting involved in. And they shouldn't get involved in it simply because they don't have the skills. And they don't have the historical data. They don't have the access to research data. They just enter and somebody says cassava farming is good, so they jump in, buy some land and plant some cassava, and they're disappointed when it doesn't work out the way they want. And this is the reason why a cooperative strategy in agriculture is going to work much better than an independent, singular entrepreneurial strategy. So we have to look at that as well. And I know this is an IoT webinar, and I'm supposed to be talking about the use of technology. But if we don't understand the problems and what should be driving the use of technology, then we're not going to make any progress, because people will always see technology as something that's new, unknown, scary, expensive, prone to failure, etc., etc. Whereas that's completely wrong, especially in the Nigeria of today, where Nigeria is really one of the technological giants, especially when it comes to anything to do with the digital economy, the use of IT and the use of Internet of Things, IoT, and the industrial Internet of Things, IIoT. Nigeria is becoming very strong in that area. And IoT Africa in conjunction with Trans IT, as well as about 60 other partners of ours in Nigeria, as focusing on those areas to ensure that the agricultural industry thrives as well as it possibly could, using technology that will guarantee success. 22.8 trillion naira was spent. So Nigeria spends about 22.8 trillion naira on food in 2019 alone, represents more than half of the total household expenditure. So we have a 22.8 trillion naira market for food already, and we don't have enough, and much of this is imported. So you can see that agriculture is a fantastic opportunity for entrepreneurs, and really, just the same way Nigerians are jumping in to become Uber drivers or Bolt drivers, they should be jumping in to become agriculturists. If the necessary infrastructure and support networks are in place, all of them will succeed. And with using technology, this is indeed possible. So I spent a lot of time on that slide, so I'm going to move a little bit faster because of time. But of course, during the question and answer session, I'll be able to expatiate on all the areas that I've talked about in this particular presentation. Agriculture is broadly divided into 4 sectors in Nigeria: crop production, fishing, livestock, and forestry. Crop production remains the largest segment, and it accounts for 87.6% of the sector's total output. This is followed by livestock, fishing, and forestry at 8.1%, 3.2%, and 1.1% respectively. Agriculture remains the largest sector in Nigeria, contributing an average of 24% to the nation's GDP over the last 7 years. In addition, the sector employs more than 36% of the country's labor force, a feat which ranks the sector as the largest employer of labor. And I made comments on that already. I mean, telecoms, IT, and telecoms are already delivering, more than 17% of the GDP. And in a short while, it's going to overcome or surpass agriculture if care is not taken. And I say if care is not taken because the agricultural sector should be moving much faster than IT, because food security is indeed extremely important, as you can imagine. So we look at it, and when we talk about the ratio of what percentage is applicable to the crop production, and what percentage is attributable to livestock, fishing, and forestry. Livestock, fishing, and forestry is high profit, fast returns. If the right technology is used, more guaranteed returns, and yet look at how small it is. So there's absolutely, there's so much room for improvement, but the improvement and the success of the agricultural industry cannot take place without the adoption of the right technology, from IoT to IT to the use of tractors, to use of mechanized farming. That has to come in and play its role. Nigeria's agricultural trade deficit continues to widen amid government's push for self-sufficiency in the sector. It's like kind of like trying to compete, providing a transportation system based on bicycles to go between Lagos and Ibadan, and your competitor is using a luxurious bus. How are we going to compete as a country in the agricultural sector when we're using archaic methods of agricultural production? I mean, look at this. In 4 years, 2016 to 2019, Nigeria's cumulative agricultural imports stood at 3.35 trillion. Look at the graph. You can see in the red, just 1 second, please. I have something blocking my screen. I'm trying to get rid of it without much success. Okay. So I take it the red is the well, I'll talk about that in a minute. The share of agriculture in Nigeria's total export earnings remains small compared to crude oil exports. For instance, in 2019, agriculture accounted for less than 2% of the total exports relative to crude. 2% of the most important resource. I mean, the most important resource represents 2% of total exports. There's room for improvement there. Nigeria's major agricultural imports include wheat, sugar, fish, and milk. When I was growing up, wheat wasn't a major issue, wasn't a major item we consumed. Fish was sort of, and certainly milk wasn't. But today we're spending most of our money on wheat, sugar, fish, and milk, while the main agricultural exports include sesame seeds, cashew nuts, cocoa beans, ginger, frozen shrimp, and cotton. I mean, you know, the range is so small compared to what Nigeria could produce. Why isn't Nigeria the largest producer of palm oil in the world, or coconuts, or copra as it's called after processing? Can you please mute your microphone? Can you please mute your microphone? Thank you. So sesame, cashew nuts, and cocoa account for more than half of the nation's agricultural exports, while wheat dominates agricultural imports. Wheat for bread, not Gary, you know, not yam, not cocoa yam, not, you know, just wheat, a genetically modified product that causes sickness, cancer, and other things in the human body is our major import. Very interesting. Agricultural exports declined by about 11%, from 302 billion in 2018 to 269 billion. Okay, so basically, we have this slide talking about imports versus exports, and the summary of this slide is simply that we are importing too much and exporting too little, and that the volume or the value of imports is increasing while the value of exports is decreasing, which means we're going against the flow based on government policy and government objectives for this country. Why is that happening? People will invest in areas of business that they feel safe, that they feel are safe. Using technology, we can make agriculture a safe investment, with a guaranteed return on investment, simply by using IoT and IT to ensure decision making is correct, to ensure that there's protection of the entire investment by ensuring that things are done properly. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So what are the challenges of the Nigerian agricultural sector? Lack of access to finance. Let's start from number one. Resource shortages, violent conflict, outdated system of agriculture, absence of value addition and supply chain linkages, insufficient supply to meet population growth and food demand, lack of access to finance. Now, you know, one of the major reasons why there's a lack of access to finance, in other words, why is there not enough money made available for the agricultural industry? It's simply because it's too risky. The rate of success of farmers when they borrow money, their ability to pay back the money is less than the acceptable levels that the banks are willing to carry. So in short, until agriculture is made to be a secure industry in which to invest, secure in the sense that there is a better chance, a good chance of success, a good chance of generating the revenues that are required to pay back the loans, there will be the banks will be reluctant to lend money. So using technology, we can basically eradicate all of these challenges. because the rate of success will be very high. So take resource shortages, for example. Over the past years, Nigeria has dealt with very low yields per hectare due to shortages in the supply of inputs such as seedlings and fertilizers, as well as inadequate irrigation and harvesting systems, which hinders productivity and yield rates. But if there was enough capital made available, there would be no shortage of seedlings and fertilizers. And if the systems of agriculture were good, then there'll be better harvests. And there'll be very few things to hinder productivity rates because, for example, using precision agriculture, precision farming, irrigation would be just enough, not too much, as we currently are applying on many farms. Too much water actually is not good for the soil. It's not good for the crops. Violent conflict. I won't talk about that because we all know about that. It's in the news every day. Violent conflict caused by, one type of farmer coming down to battle with another type of farmer, when both could be resolved simply using technology to help them to have better production, better yields, better access to resources, better control over those resources. Look at number 3, outdated systems of agriculture. Today, we're still looking at farmers going out into their farm and looking at the sky and saying, yes, I think it's going to rain today. I think I'll plant. Whereas he's wrong. Just an application of one weather station every 1,000 hectares would produce information for the farmers to know when to plant, when to fertilize, when to harvest. And how much is that? It's just a few $1,000s. But weather stations are not being applied in Nigeria the way they should. So the farmers are left on their own, to come out and say, well, my knees are aching, so that means it's going to rain. And that's the level of precision that the farmers are applying. And this is totally wrong. Absence of value addition and supply chain linkages. Nigeria focuses mostly on food production, thus neglecting the processing and manufacturing segment of the value chain. The chain reaction that arises from shortages of resources, lack of financing for small-scale farmers, and inefficient transport system as exacerbates the development of food production along the value and supply chain. Well, I'm not surprised. Why would you set up a factory to produce agricultural produce when there's no guarantee that you will have agricultural produce to process? Because the agricultural producers are using archaic methods, and this year they produce and next year they don't. So what do you do with your factory? Their factory set up to produce tomatoes. They have to shut down. They don't have a sufficient supply of tomatoes to keep the factory operational. And this is simply because of the lack of use of technology. Inefficient supply to meet population growth and food demand. I mean, food insecurity is a disaster. And the experts say that there is a massive food insecurity problem coming to Africa and the world as a whole. Even in the United States, the shelves are not as well stocked as they used to be. And that's considered a very rich nation. And indeed it is, relative to Nigeria anyway. So we have a problem coming, and we have to take this seriously, and we have to adopt technology. Otherwise, there's going to be a serious problem, and people are going to die from starvation and from malnutrition. We have to ensure that there is food security. The market analysis, I don't like the slide much, but according to President's research, the global Internet of Things in agriculture market size is expected to hit around 28.56 billion by 2030 and poised to grow at a CAGR of 9.62% from 2022 to 2030. Now, this may be applicable in the modern world, but the rate of growth in Africa and also in Nigeria needs to be much higher than that because we're so far behind. And therefore, we have to speed up. We have to take technology a lot more seriously. So when I say I didn't like the slide, I don't like the results I'm seeing. The results show that we are, if we aim for 9.62% growth, we are going to fail. We need to catch up. We need to be talking about 25 to 30% growth over the next 5 years, and then we can stabilize at 9.62%. Then where we can be guaranteed better food security. The Internet of Things. In agriculture, IoT measures all desired data remotely and measures and provides this information in real time. IoT gathers information for efficient management on parameters such as for soil management, for crop management, livestock management, temperature, pest and disease outbreak monitoring, storage and transportation management, machinery health, product application, security, and general farm management. I mean, that's a mouthful, isn't it? But in short, what IoT does is it helps you collect data from the fields. It takes that data and it collects the data by using robots, drones, remote sensors like temperature measurements, moisture measurements, acidity measurements, carbon dioxide measurement in enclosed environments where you have hydroponics and indoor growing facilities like for mushrooms, and computer imaging combined with continuously progressing machine learning. I mean, this is a lot of grammar. In short, we take the data, we collect it from the field remotely using battery-operated sensors, so we don't need electricity. The battery-operated sensors last for 4, 5, 10 years, depending on the quality of the product that you buy or how industrial the product is. You collect the data of soil moisture, soil temperature, etc. You know, ammonia levels in your poultry farm to know how clean it is and so on. You take that data and you process it with using software applications, and you turn that data into information. For example, information you could tell the farmer, your soil temperature is at this level. It's you need to irrigate, or your soil moisture level is at a particular level. You need to irrigate. So it tells the farmer what to do based on the parameters that have been inputted into the system. So, for example, if it's corn that he's farming, there's a soil moisture and a soil acidity and a soil temperature that is appropriate for corn to grow at different stages of its life to give you the best yields. The systems will tell you whether the environment is appropriate or conducive for high yields of production. It'll tell you that. So you don't have to imagine it, and you don't have to walk around your entire farm, especially for people who have large farms. That's a lot of work to walk around a 100-acre farm, for example, not to mention a 20,000-acre farm. So the IoT will collect the data, process it, give you the information, and give you actionable information, so you know what to do. And in some cases, it can be looped back into an automatic system. So when the soil temperature or soil moisture is too low, the irrigation system is automatically activated, and it puts just enough water to arrive at the moisture level in that soil that is appropriate for that particular crop. And if you talk about poultry farming, temperature in poultry farming is critical. All right. Yeah, once again, the good thing about IoT is that it is to a large extent immune from power generation issues and also immune from internet issues. So because your devices will collect data, whether there's electricity provided by, well, the former NEPA, or the internet's up, it will store the data and transmit the data whenever the internet is up using battery power. So that's the beauty about Internet of Things, especially the type of Internet of Things provided by IoT Africa, IoT Africa networks. So let me just quickly go back to So, just to confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Oh, fantastic. So, all right. So basically IoT collects the data, processes it, and then delivers information to you. This information is gathered, stored, analyzed based on established parameters. The data gathered is passed through an analytics platform which transforms the data into readable, actionable formats. This analyzed information can be accessed via an app, email, or text message. You see, if you deliver this information the way I'm talking now to the average farmer, and no disrespect meant to the average farmer, because the average farmer is maybe highly skilled in agriculture, but not highly skilled in technology. He would be scared of this. But if I told you that, okay, look, if I install this system on your farm, it will tell you when you need to water your crops. It'll tell you when the temperature is at a dangerous level, so you need to apply irrigation to bring the temperature down. It will tell you how much fertilizer to use on each hectare. I do apologize. It'll tell you. It'll tell you everything that you need to know. You know, basically, it's an intelligent system. So you don't have to. I mean, you can apply your own knowledge, but at least you'll have a backup telling you whether your knowledge is on track or not, because the data that's the systems are going to be updated and learn from other farms and learn from your farm and give you the best advice possible, and it's reliable and accurate. It's based on data coming from the field, you know, real time. It's not based on what your great-grandfather told you, because the weather conditions today are quite different from what our great-grandfathers used to experience. Great-grandfathers used to farm. The oxygen levels in the atmosphere are completely different. The weather is changing. The weather patterns are changing. So you need data that is current in order for you to succeed in agriculture. The world population is estimated to be about 9.7 billion in 2050. As such, the demand for more food for the growing population should be one of the key interests in developing countries and the world at large. IoT can be leveraged to adapt the extreme weather conditions, the changing climate and hostile environments, chemical compositions, flood, drought, and soil erosion with the farming practice in the nation, IoT deployment scenario in agriculture and their benefits, IoT deployment in plant farms, IoT deployment in animal farms, IoT deployment in aquaponics. Aquaponics. If we focus as a country on aquaponics, we could be a major supplier of food in the entire world and be one of the richest countries in the world. I have been researching this for a long time, and I can tell you that the fact that Nigeria is not focusing on aquaponics is criminal. We have the resources to do it. It's a secure form of agriculture, but it is rarely practiced because people are afraid of the cost of setting up big warehouses or greenhouses to produce the agricultural produce under controlled conditions. But why? Because the finance is not there, and the finance is at 20-something% per annum, when it should be 2% per annum. It should be considered a priority of national security. So, but here we are, and I believe that's going to change. I believe the government is going to change. I believe the investors are going to change. I believe the financiers are going to change. And if they don't, because they have to change, because we are going to see people dying in their millions if we're not careful and if we don't take food security more seriously. The weather is changing so rapidly. Relying on traditional farming methods is going to be a disaster. And so we need to take this seriously. We need to be focused on the use of technology in agriculture. And I'm not saying this just because IoT Africa Networks is a leader in this area. I'm saying this because Nigeria must survive. Nigeria must be prosperous. Nigeria must be comfortable. Nigerians must be well nourished because we deserve it. Nothing else. We deserve it. That's my strong belief. We deserve it. We are resilient, intelligent people, and we should not be suffering. And therefore, if we use the right technology, we will see the right success, the kind of success that we're looking for, where farmers are the richest people in the country. Today, farmers are not the richest people in the country. Everywhere else in the world, farmers are the richest people. In Nigeria, they're not. Why? Well, everywhere else in the world, they practice, in addition to certain government policies that assist them, such as guaranteeing that whatever they produce will be bought. Guarantee, can you imagine that? That you are sure that everything you produce will be bought. I mean, that's of course the banks are going to invest in agriculture if that is the situation. Now, if you're going to guarantee to buy the produce, you need to be sure that you can store the produce, you can produce it, you can add value to the produce, and you have a market for the produce. Of course, we have a market for the produce. We have 1 billion people in Africa. That's our market, first of all. Then we have 7 or 8 billion people around the world. So, certainly, we stand a good chance of success if we use technology and we use modern farming techniques. And IoT or smart agriculture is the way to go. IoT can improve your efficiency, can help you grow more, can help you optimize scarce resources, like using just the right amount of water and not too much water, using just the right amount of fertilizer and not too much, using just the right number of people and not too many people, so you can have more people to farm greater areas of land. IoT will make you more agile, and IoT will help you improve your product quality. You put an IoT device into your silo that has grain, it will tell you if the moisture level is too much. It'll tell you if there's mold growing. It'll tell you if there are insects in there. So you can quickly attend to it and pump nitrogen in there to kill off the insects and take some action. But if you don't know, the entire silo goes bad before you know it. Then you want to use it, you can't, you've lost your wealth. IoT prevents you from losing your wealth. IoT guarantees that you make wealth. Through our IoT solutions, we aim to increase revenue generation for the farmers and reduce the cost of production, enhance agricultural yield and productivity, aid sustainability across the agricultural sector, improve agricultural storage and transportation management, provide vital agricultural data to aid and improve agricultural capacity, improve the efficiency and output of the agricultural ecosystem in the country. You see, improve the efficiency and the output of the agricultural ecosystem in the country. The agricultural ecosystem is not just the farmland. The agricultural ecosystem is the availability of resources, the agricultural production of raw produce, the processing of that produce, the transportation of that produce to markets, the marketing of the produce at those markets until they're consumed, and at which point, at every point, there's money changing hands. And the farmer should not be the poorest person. The benefits of IoT in agriculture: data collection is guaranteed. If you use IoT, you have data at the right time, accurate data, not relying on human beings remembering to go and measure something. It comes to you automatically. The device collects the data from the soil, temperature, moisture, nitrogen level, acidity level, and so on, transmits it by radio to a base station. From the base station, it goes into the internet. From the internet, it goes to your computer or your smartphone. It is processed, and you see the data in the form of information. And if you use artificial intelligence or intelligence systems, it will tell you what you ought to be doing. So even if you're not a super experienced farmer, you get to know what to do and you get to be successful. And that's what we need. We can't rely on the folk tales of our forefathers on how to farm. Things have changed. The climate has changed. The soil has changed. The attitude of the people have changed. The willingness to risk money has changed. Calculated IoT, one of the benefits is calculated decision making and management, automation of agricultural activities, improved product quality, reduction of negative effects by weather conditions, because you can be proactive. You can take action at the right time. If the weather station tells you that there's going to be a lot of rainfall, that may not be the time to harvest, because if you start the harvesting when there's rainfall, in some cases it's not appropriate. Or if maybe you need to hurry up and harvest so before the real rainfall comes. So IoT in agriculture is highly beneficial. A couple of case studies. This is a maize pivot irrigation case study. It resulted in 15% yield increase, 30% savings of water and energy utilization, investments from $25 per hectare. You can see it's not expensive, $25 per hectare. And you look at the kind of results that you get. Look at this graph over here. You have these little bits of money that you have to spend, and then you have massive gains that come out of it. It's in year two, because you're spending less money on hardware. The hardware is only done in year one, which is a gray. And then the software investment is I think probably dark green, depends on whether from what I can see, it's dark green. And the second year, yes, you have to spend money on software, because software, you have to pay maintenance fees for the software, but you don't have to buy the hardware twice. So a little cost and a massive gain. That's IoT. A little cost and a massive gain. But even the little cost in Nigeria seems like a big cost, because it has to be paid for cash down, because there are inadequate loans or credit facilities that the farmers can access. But IoT Africa is working very hard with some organizations to ensure that you never have to spend that money in all at once. We can spread it over 5 years. And that's what we're working towards. But currently, this is the situation. You spend a little, you gain a lot. Right now, this 30% savings, the 15% increase in yield is not being achieved because farmers are not investing in IoT, in the Internet of Things. They're not participating or practicing smart agriculture. Smart agriculture is IoT based. So the benefits, up to 30% savings, you optimize water and energy use. Clever irrigation generates significant cost savings, increase the yield, and accurate water management results in higher yields and quantity of the yield. Some people think the more water, the better. That's not true. And in the next slide or so, I'll show you an example of that. Personnel cost optimization. You have remote valves, so you can turn on the water from your PDA. You don't have to physically go there to turn the water on. You can decide, oh, the soil moisture on that particular field is poor, and therefore is poor, and therefore we need to. The moisture level is low. We have to add more water, or the nitrogen level is low, we have to add more fertilizer. But in the case of water, you can turn the valves on. Remote valve management saves human resources on site. You need fewer people to manage larger pieces of land, so the farmers can expand without their overheads going up dramatically once they invest in the Internet of Things, in smart agriculture. It's easy to do. It's plug and play. It's plug and play. Easy to install, easy to use. So Let's look at this particular use case. The company Samsud in Sudan. The company Samsud in Sudan operates in agro services and materials on a total area of 50,000 hectares. On one of his farms, they implemented pivotal irrigation systems for growing Irish potatoes. They have also implemented monitoring parts, IoT soil sensors, and weather stations. Weather stations are really, really important for arable outdoor agriculture. I can't overemphasize that. They're so affordable, and yet they give you so much information that helps you not to fail. So issue faced in Sudan, the amount of water and oil, not only for agriculture, is limited by state legislation. So what do we have? We have installed sensors in 4 sections of the field. We consider the soil type and the crop depth of placement of the sensors and thresholds for triggering irrigation. Those were agreed with the client. We have also set notifications once these thresholds are reached. So the original irrigation was every day. They used to irrigate every day, regardless of the conditions in the soil or the air, wasting water, wasting resources. Power and water was wasted because you need pumps to pump the water. That's power. And then you need water to be delivered. That's water. And therefore, you're wasting it. Now, with the new irrigation cycles, based on the IoT information that was received, was shortened by 75%. That is, they were able to irrigate the land every 4 days, basically. Sometimes every day, but mostly every 4 days. So they found out that was just enough water that was suitable for their farm. Now, the result was 13 potatoes on one plant based on the new irrigation cycle, compared to before 5 to 10 potatoes on one plant. The yield was about 37 tons per hectare. Massive improvement just by using precision agriculture, putting just enough water because you know when you have to put water, and you don't put water just when you feel like it. Comparing with their neighbor, you can see the green parts. That's the Samsud parcel. You see how green it is? The plants did very well with this new system based on IoT, based on smart agriculture. And then look at his neighbor's parcels. I mean, the yield was ridiculously low because he used his own, mental way. I think, my great-grandfather said this is what I should do. This man said, the Samsud parcel of land said, no, I will do what science tells me to do. I will act based on the information I'm receiving from my farm. And I'll take the appropriate action and deliver just enough resources to achieve the best result. And look at the difference between the Samsud parcel of land and the neighbor's parcel of land. This is a weather station, very simple item, very affordable. And this is what can be used to tell you, because, for example, you see this thing up there that looks like little spoons? That's the winds. That tells you the wind speed. Wind speed will tell you what impact it will have on drying your farm. The more the wind is there, the more moisture will be dissipated from the soil. So you will know that you need to be prepared for irrigation. And then you can get to know when it's going to rain, how much rain has fallen, and so on and so forth. You get a lot of information from the weather station. The weather station is used for measuring air temperature, relative air humidity, atmospheric pressure, precipitation volume, leaf wetness, wind force and direction. With its features, a weather station is a perfect fit for application in the agriculture field. And thanks to the compact construction, it is possible to use in the application of meteorological forecasting models with dense coverage in given areas. Expected battery lifetime is up to 3 years. Once you put this in the field, you don't need to worry about it for 3 good years. It's good for rainfall monitoring, leaf wetness measuring, average wind force, direction and gust, temperature and humidity monitoring in crops, long-term monitoring of weather trends, prediction of diseases, incidents, and pests for individual crops based on mathematical models. I know I'm going really fast, but I'm wary of time. So soil sensor, this is what a soil sensor looks like. This long thing here, you insert it into the soil. It's connected to this box, which transmits the information to the internet and to you. A very simple device, you stick it in the ground and it sends the information. It's plug and play. Main features and benefits are irrigation optimization. That is, you use just the right amount of water and nothing more. Long-term monitoring of soil moisture, so you can tell what the trends are for different months over the years. Prediction of sowing or harvesting suitability, so you know when it's the right time to sow, whether the constitution of the soil, the moisture in the soil is correct for sowing, for planting, and when it's correct for harvesting. That information is key. You get that wrong, you basically have a suboptimal harvest. This is another soil sensor, volumetric, and the soil sensor is a device designed to measure soil moisture and temperature at a depth given by inserting the sensor into the soil. The Trubner sensor, based on volumetric water volume measurement, was used to determine soil moisture. Optimized growth. The benefits are optimized growth of crops, generating additional revenues, reduce energy and water consumption for irrigation, remote control and reporting of the system status and usage. So we use satellite imagery. This is really serious stuff. This is ultra modern, and this is what we offer in IoT. IoT Africa offers this to Nigerian farmers and to African farmers. So you can tell what's going on your farm and take the appropriate action. Picture of historical data shown on the platform, so you can see what has been happening over the years, over the months, and be able to plan and anticipate things that will happen. So historical analysis of vegetation development. This service outlines the spatial variability of agricultural crops using historical analysis of satellite images up to 25 years old. The usage of the crop is analyzed and the quality of the crop is evaluated, and to find the best zoning for the plant. So based on satellite imagery, you'll know which parcel of land is suitable for what type of crop. The output can also be used for variable, most efficient applications of fungicides and nitrogen fertilization. It also tells you what parts of land need fertilization and which ones are okay. Where they're okay, if you over apply fertilizers, you will spoil the land, you'll have a poor yield. This makes sure that you can be optimal in your agricultural practices. So silo storage, sensor, you put these sensors into your silos or your storage bins, and you get to know what's going on. Constant monitoring of conditions in the silo is a benefit. Easy detection of pest or disease is a benefit. Constant temperature alert checks of stored grains is a benefit. When grains are about to spoil, the temperature goes up. Fermentation starts happening, and so when you see a significant rise in temperature in the silo, you know that there's a problem. There's need to bring it out, treat it, and put it back in. So there's no point in agriculture if you're not going to store your product properly, because if you don't store it properly, you can't sell it. If you can't sell it, you can't get revenue. If you can't gain revenue, then you go bankrupt. So this is a very, very important part of IoT, or smart agriculture. The sensor is used to protect agricultural commodities stored in silos. It can be produced at various lengths depending on the height of the silo. The silo sensor has 7 to 10 individual sensors evenly spaced out along its length and can reliably monitor the internal conditions. For livestock farming, with this collar, you can tell where your cows are or your livestock is. You can also tell what is the temperature of the livestock. You can tell when a cow is on heat, and you can tell when a cow is on heat. and you know when it's ovulating, and therefore you know when to mate it. So the presentation was almost over. I had just a couple more slides, which basically showed a few more sensors. But in all, the summary, I suppose, is that with IoT, smart agriculture is enabled, and the agriculture, because of the use of technology, meaning that the percentage of failure of farms is minimized to less than 10%, then the financial sector will be very happy to invest in agriculture. And therefore we will do much better as a country. And the trillions and trillions of naira that is leaving the country to be put in the hands of foreign farmers will stop. And those trillions of naira will come into local farmers, local agricultural entrepreneurs, and the country will prosper and become a wealthy nation. Even as we go from we move from just producing the agricultural produce to producing finished products with value add, and exporting finished products like cocoa can be turned into chocolates. Our cassava can be turned into starch and other things. Brazil has been exporting poultry to Nigeria for decades. Brazil is selling us chickens. Chickens we know how to produce. So we can stop the flow of money out of Nigeria, keep the money in Nigeria, and the entire country will prosper from it. So in all, I was to make a case for the use of smart agriculture in Nigeria, and that's what I've tried to do, and that's what I hope I have achieved. I thank you very much for listening to me, and I pray that the agricultural sector in Nigeria does much better as it adopts the Internet of Things and adopts smart agricultural practices. Thank you very much indeed. God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Ayola. Honestly, each time you speak, you unravel mysteries. We thank you for simplifying this very complex subject. Before now, it looked very difficult to achieve, but you've really shed a lot of light on these issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
The presentation was succinct. The figures, the facts you shared were just mind-blowing. And then you preferred solutions also. And thank you also, just like we appreciated you the last time, for having a true Nigerian dream. Thank you for wanting to see a better nation. We thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
We have some questions here that would like you to quickly help us attend to. They're on the chat room. So the first one says, how can Nigerian or African farmers be made to become more organized?
Okay, I'll take that very quickly. I do know that some of the presidential aspirants are already forming groups to organize the farmers. I think, one of the key things we have to identify is what the objectives are. If the objectives of cooperatives, farming cooperatives, clearly point towards improving the chances of success of each farmer, then you will find out that the cooperation is enhanced. Simple things, joint ownership of tractors, joint ownership of the IoT, joint ownership of any of the technology required in enhancing the agricultural produce. So, but most important is education. Most important is the orientation of the farmers. Most important is the transparency of the process, and the accountability that is attached to it. So I think that once trust is established, then cooperative farming units will become the norm, and then even the cooperation between cooperative farming units will also become the norm, ultimately until you have a literally homogeneous agricultural ecosystem where everybody sees that the success of every other farmer is in their best interest. It sounds too good to be true, but it can be achieved. It can be achieved, but only where transparency and accountability are well entrenched in the systems, and where fairness and equity is brought to play. And then even the micro farmers will join when they know that there's a significant benefit. I remember many, many years ago, I was a very successful contractor. Transa was a very successful contractor to Shell. And I remember we were doing very, very well. And we opened, I mean, you know, we were not licensed as a banking outfit, so we basically gave away 0 interest loans to smaller companies. And when they didn't have the tools, we lent them our tools. And when they didn't have the manpower, we lent them supervision to make sure that the jobs they handled for Shell were handled to the standard that Shell liked, which means they would get paid. This brought a lot of love and peace within the contractor ecosystem in Warri, especially. And I remember the spirit was fun, was really, really good. People who couldn't afford cars started buying cars. They couldn't afford tools, started buying tools. All it takes is a little bit of love from the big boys to the small boys, from the government to the small boys. And I know small boys, big boys, you know, these are not corporate terms, but basically the smallholder farmer, if he's mentored and I'm trying to use the word, let's use the word mentored by the bigger farmers will find out that a healthier farming ecosystem is good. The more farmers that don't fail, the more money that will be put into the sector. So, but the only way a small farmer will not fail is if he's a member of a cooperative that is well run, and most likely that cooperative should be well run by a bigger company, and that bigger company should know that the success of all its members would result in more resources being made available to the big company and the small companies, and everybody grows. And then we get hold of that $6.7 trillion or $6 trillion plus that's going out of the country, comes back in. So this spirit of love, if you like, in the agricultural sector is key to success. I know these terms are not commonly used in business, things like love, but caring for your colleague in the industry, caring for your fellow farmer is an act of love. And we'd have to call a spade what a spade is, you know. So I think really that's how it's going to be done. Ultimately, it needs the right person at the helm of affairs to drive the process right at the top, to make sure that town hall meetings and reorientation of the farmers, and reorientation of the bankers, and reorientation of the investment bankers, and reorientation of the agricultural inputs suppliers. Everybody needs reorientation to make sure that we're all on the same page. Education and reorientation, so we're all on the same page. If we're all on the same page, then there'll be massive success beyond what the world has ever seen before. Why? We are the smartest people in the world, no doubt about it, and the hardest working people, the most industrious, the most resilient. We can take things that many other races cannot take, many other nationalities cannot take. There's no reason why we should fail. There's every reason why we should succeed. That's my answer.
Thank you, Mr. Ayola. That was robust. Thank you so much. Because of our time, we need to skip some questions, but there are 2 more questions I would just like you to attend to. The first is from Mercy David Omoike. She says, how can we sensitize local farmers effectively on the benefits of IoT to agricultural productivity? Did you get that question, sir?
Yes. How can we sensitize local farmers on the importance of IoT or the use of smart farming?
IoT, exactly.
Well, we have tried. Obviously, maybe webinars are not the best method, because how many farmers have the time to attend a webinar at this time of the day? They're very hardworking people and extremely busy people. So therefore, I think road shows, going from farming community to farming community, spreading the word, educating them, showing them what the equipment looks like, installing equipment for them, showing them what the benefits are. When they start benefiting from it, the adoption will be automatic, will be fast, to be rapid. So there's no other way, I don't think. There's no announcements on the 9 o'clock news that will work. It has to be road shows where we physically go from farming community to farming community, spreading the word. This requires money. It requires resources. And this is why it hasn't been done, or it's not being done as profusely as it should be. So that's the way to spread the word. Obviously, through the webinars and so on, we can sensitize the policymakers. We can sensitize the public sector decision makers. We can sensitize the captains of industry or the captains of the financial sector, so that they understand the role that they can play. They understand the importance of technology in agriculture. Now you have to get the farmers to adopt the technology. And if they're going to adopt the technology, they need to trust it. And they will not trust it by seeing somebody on a TV. They want to see his face. They want to talk to him. They want to see it in action. They want to at least see it in one community in 10. And then the other 9 communities will adopt it. When they hear that one community has the kind of results I showed earlier, where one person's farm was doing very well, all the green, and the other person's farm was not, everybody wants their farm to be successful. They'll ask questions. What did you do to make this happen? And once it's shared, then you'll find out that everybody adopts it. So that's the way to go. There's no shortcut. A lot of hard work, a lot of effort, quite a bit of the resources are not small either, but the gain is massive. Makes the resources that are required to make this happen look like chicken change. And therefore, it's something that must be done, and I highly recommend that it be done, where the farming communities are educated face-to-face. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. That's very practical. We just need to hit the streets, go where the farmers are.
That's right.
Finally, how can artificial intelligence, machine learning, remote sensing, robotics, and big data with IoT make the future much more exciting for local farmers?
Well, you see, I'm a strong believer in that. When I did my master's degree in operations research, our professors basically said to us, "Look, we can teach you how to derive the formulas, but we're going to teach you how to use them. We're going to teach you how to use them." And at the end of the day, everybody wants their life to be simple and easy. So I want to show I would like us to show the farmers what. Let me put it another way. It's important that they know what to do. In the old days, if you grew up in a farm, you became a farmer. Nowadays, many of our young people did not grow up in farms. So they don't have the benefit of a lifetime of education in the farm sector. Some of them read engineering, some of them read psychology, sociology, and therefore, but they feel farming is good. They have a passion for it. They want to go into it. So they want a system that would tell them what to do. I mean, if you open a bakery, you don't go and start figuring out how much flour and how much sugar. You ask somebody for a recipe and you apply the recipe. When the oven gets to this temperature, that's enough. When the bread looks this color, bring it out. Or when you cook it for 15 minutes, bring it out. Artificial intelligence will tell the farmers what to do, given the conditions of the farm, given the data collected from the farm, processed, analyzed, benchmarked against the best practices or the best, the appropriate conditions for high yield for that particular crop. Artificial intelligence will read all of that and then instruct you in your farm, your sector 025 of the farm, apply X number of gallons per hectare in order to bring the water moisture up to the right level. And of course, it's monitoring and it's giving you feedback as to where you are. Maybe you are negative 25%. As you're applying water, you will see your system coming back and telling you you're negative 12, negative 8, negative 1, then you're 0. That means you're at correct level of what it should be. So the artificial intelligence would help the farmers to become precision farmers, to become farmers of no guesswork, farmers of knowledge, farmers of immediate knowledge, not after 10 years. Now, I open my farm, I have IoT on my farm, I'm applying artificial intelligence, I will have information on what to do now, and I will get it right first time. I will get it right first time, not second time. I will not waste the money for the first season. Artificial intelligence will guarantee success if you do what it tells you to do, and if you have applied the sensors where you're supposed to apply them. Of course, you're going to need a consultant to tell you where to apply the sensors. And that's where IoT Africa comes in. So, or one of our many partners. So we're not doing it alone. We have not attacked this industry thinking that we're going to do it all. We have at least 50 partners working with us, and we're acquiring more. Talking to companies like IITA, International Institute of Tropical Agriculture. We are talking to them. We are talking to the departments of agriculture in several universities. We have partners that are going to work with us, and we're going to work with them also to make this a reality in Nigeria. We're taking the leadership role. We're playing a leadership role in technology and agriculture on the IoT side, not in the tractor side. We're not tractor specialists. We are IoT specialists. We are IT specialists as well. And we're working with partners to make this happen. So artificial intelligence is critical to shortening the speed with which somebody can become an effective, efficient, and successful farmer. Without artificial intelligence, you're leaving a lot to the individual to learn, go and study books and so on and so forth. But with artificial intelligence, the day he says he wants to be a farmer and he adopts IoT with artificial intelligence, that same day he becomes an expert, because he's now as good as the experts from around the world that have put this system together to tell him what to do and when to do it and how to do it, how much to apply, when to open the valve, close the valve, when to apply fertilizer, when not to, when to plant, when not to plant, when to harvest, when not to harvest, when your grain in the silo is going bad, when it's not going bad, etc. The artificial intelligence unit would tell him what to do. And if he does what it tells him what to do, then he will succeed. And the money that he borrowed will be safe. He will be able to pay it back. And therefore, when more farmers ask for money from the banks, they will get the money. And resources will not be in short supply in the agricultural sector when we remove the possibility of failure. And that's what IoT does. It removes the possibility of failure. Without that, the possibility of failure is high. And I'm not cursing anybody. It's based on historical record. Go and ask the banks. How many farmers fail? If they give loans to 10 farmers, how many succeed? They don't stand a chance without technology. They don't stand a chance without artificial intelligence. They don't stand a chance without the Internet of Things. So why are we fooling ourselves? We keep having policies, give them money to go and farm. Yes, we give them money and they fail. So why don't we find out why they're failing? We found out why they're failing. They're failing because they don't use technology. They're failing because they don't have the skills. They don't have the experience. The traditional experienced farmers are old. Many have retired. The young people don't stand a chance. They rely on quacks who claim to be experienced farmers. And if those quacks were not quacks, why is their advice failing the agricultural entrepreneurs of today? 9 out of 10 of them, when I talk to them, they say that agriculture taught them a very serious lesson. And when I investigate further, it's just lack of knowledge that IoT could have resolved. So, I mean, I can talk about this for the next 2 hours, but I just want to respect your time. In short, with artificial intelligence, you increase the possibilities of success by 90%. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We really appreciate you. Thank you for those answers.
You're welcome.
Like Mr. Ayola said, everyone has a role to play. And we are very happy that, well, the media, we are is well represented here because we have some personalities like Mercy Omoyike from the News Agency of Nigeria, NAN. We appreciate you. Thank you for joining us today. We also have Madam Rita Adachuku. Thank you also for joining us from Mercy Port Energies. Mr. Ayola, thank you once again. It's been very insightful. We'll do everything we can from our own hand to disseminate this information as much as possible. We'll broadcast this far and wide. And please, for everyone who attended this meeting today, we want us to know that this is a collective responsibility. This seminar today is kind of predictive. There are consequences to be suffered if we don't do what Mr. Ayola advised us to do. So please, this is a responsibility on all of us. Let us go all out there and preach this good news of smart IoT in agriculture. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you very much.
Your deliberateness, we appreciate your focus. We thank you for your efforts and sacrifices. Please, for everyone attending, I'd like us to put our hands together for Mr. Ayola for having done a very excellent job today. In all honesty, this is super. Thank you. The figures, we need to ruminate over them, study the webinar all over again. So much to gain from this webinar. Thank you very much, Mr. Ayola.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Word you have before we shut down today.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to participate in these webinars. Sharing information has always been a passion of mine. For those who have known me at the beginning of IT, many years ago, starting in, I think, 1991, it has been a pleasure of mine to share the word or share the good word of technology. And as you can see, technology touches a wide range of industries, from the banking industries to the agriculture industry to the hospitality industry, logistics, supply chain, safety and security, oil and gas. It's just broad. The digital economy is the economy now. There's nothing in the economy that's if not part of the digital world, it will not succeed as well as it could. So my last word, I suppose, on this particular topic is smart agriculture is the road to success. Smart agriculture will give us food security. Smart agriculture will attract investment into the agricultural sector, and smart agriculture will guarantee the kind of returns that will make the financiers and the entrepreneurs happy. And that's my conclusion. Thank you very much indeed. It's been an amazing pleasure to be part of this webinar today. God bless you.
Amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Before we shut down, another dignitary is in the house, Mrs. Victoria Ebimize, the Executive Director of Spaces for Change, Lagos. Ma'am, we appreciate you. Thank you for joining us today. And we know there are loads of other dignitaries around who we just cannot mention everybody's name. So we want to thank everyone for making our time to be here today. We celebrate your presence. We appreciate you for coming. And we know that Nigeria will become better. Nigeria will become a great country that it's ordained to be. And we will take this message out and make sure that everyone who is supposed to hear about it gets to hear about it. Once again, we want to thank you, Mr. Ayola, for your time. We appreciate you. Please do enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.